Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits Encounters video. Well, I haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought I would mix this one in here, particularly because this is a pretty creepy, very scary experience that I just happened to read about the other day. It has to do with an apartment that is apparently very haunted and may have a demonic presence within it. So those of you that are like me living in an apartment, let's see if you'll be able to sleep after this particular story. But it comes from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit called Ghost Stories. It's from a user by the name of Gold Introduction 747. They aptly titled theirs as Demonic/Haunted Apartment. Creepy stuff. It's a little bit of a long story, so sit back and relax, and then let me know where your own thoughts and comments are afterward. So here's what it says. 12 years ago, we moved into a very haunted, possibly demonic apartment. For context, I will need to go further back in the timeline, as my stepson was a huge component of the story. These stories about my stepson were related to me from my husband. I believe my stepson, as a child, was sensitive to ghosts, paranormal, etc. So an incident happened when my stepson was a baby at another haunted apartment where he woke up in the middle of the night, crying like he was hurt in his crib. Husband and mom noticed 3 scratches on his back. Of course, it can be explained, yet husband insisted those scratches were not there prior to putting him to sleep. Another strange phenomenon is that almost every photo of my stepson has some orb near him. Of course, this can be explained as well, yet there was photos of just his foot in the background, and a well-placed orb was right there near his foot. No matter the location of the photo, 90% of the photos we had of him had this weird orb. Now, jumping back into 12 years ago, we had found an apartment to rent. We had terrible credit, and the landlord gave us a chance. We were excited as the apartment was in a relatively decent part of town and to be getting our own space as we had been previously living with my mom. One thing I remember when the landlord first showed us the apartment, he said that he had to do extensive renovations to it as the previous tenants had destroyed the place. First month, I started noticing small shadows from the 2 bedrooms out of the corner of my eyes. I chalked it up to just exhaustion because I had my then 1-year-old son with me. Things grew more intense when I put my 1-year-old down for a nap and decided to shower. I left the door open that led from the single bathroom to my bedroom just in case my 1-year-old woke up. As I was showering, I felt as though someone was watching me. When I opened my eyes, I see a black shadow run past the door. My 1-year-old started crying hysterically. I quickly got out of the shower, looked around the house, and was convinced that someone had broke in, but I checked the front door and everything was locked. A month or so passed from this incident. My 2 stepkids, 7 and 8 at the time, would come one day a week, and on some weekends, their room was relatively unused. I started hearing their sliding wood closet doors knock, and then a strange rotting egg smell came from their room. I searched high and low for the source of the smell, but I never found anything. My mother-in-law had stayed over a few times and would tease that the kids must have left an egg salad sandwich somewhere. My husband heard the knocking at some point, yet chalked it up to the air conditioning kicking on. One weekend, my husband was out of town for work and I was alone with all the kids. I had got them all to sleep and decided to stay up and watch Ghost Adventures. I was laying on the couch when I happened to look up and I see my stepson standing by the couch with his eyes closed. Immediately, I realized he was sleepwalking, which happens time to time. He started mumbling about an old, scary man in his closet. I stupidly figured he was having a nightmare and guided him back to his bed. As I started to walk out of the room, my stepson sat up in bed and then mumbled again, "The old man in the closet is looking at me." I looked over to see the closet open and then instantly got creeped out. Then my stepson said, "He's going to knock." And then 3 quick knocks happened. Immediately, the smell of rotting eggs got heavy in the room. I flicked the lights on and guided my stepson to my bedroom. I was freaking out internally because my stepdaughter was on the top bunk in that room sleeping, and I did not want to leave her alone. And so I got all the kids into my bed and stayed up until I could no longer fight the sleep. Now, I'm not super religious, but I asked my mother advice on what to do. She said to pray over the rooms and get oil on my fingers and place crosses over each door frame. I did exactly what she told me. That night, I had a terrible nightmare that my mom was possessed. In the nightmare, she had died a gruesome death that I was made to watch. I woke up hysterically crying. I wanted nothing more than just be able to move, but it was not an option. After this, the activity in the apartment calmed. Yet one new thing started happening. One night I woke up to my bed shaking. It felt as though someone had placed their knees against the mattress and was shaking it. As soon as I tried to wake up my husband to see if he felt it, it would immediately stop. This would now happen weekly. For context, my 1-year-old son slept in a toddler's bed in front of our bed. One night, my 1-year-old and I were right up there in the living room. My husband went to bed early as he had to go to work early the next day. He came out looking upset and said to stop allowing our 1-year-old to come into the room because he was shaking the bed. I told him our son never went into the room. As soon as I finished that sentence, the glass cover to the entryway light, which was right behind me, came crashing down. My husband stood there sleepily trying to process everything. He finally was feeling and seeing the things that I had been dealing with. One day, a house nearby was for rent, and so we moved out. We were at this apartment for less than a year. We never experienced anything like that. Was what we experienced in that apartment. Relief was around because I was worried that whatever was in this place might attach itself to us. My stepson passed away in 2019, possibly due to COVID. I had told him the story prior to his passing when he was in his teens, and he claimed to not remember the incident in the apartment. I believe fully he saw whatever entity was in that apartment. Apologies for the length. And that's it. That's everything that the user Gold Introduction 747 stated in their long story here. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that. For starters, what a creepy story, right? It's one of those slow burn stories where when you think about it, not much happens, but it's a culmination of things. Like it's one thing after another, and it seems to progress over time. Not too much, but it's consistent. It's that eerie feeling that's like you want to just come home, rest, have a good time, not have this constant dread. But that's what was happening within the apartment. It seemed like every single day, at least up to a weekly basis, this poor woman was being haunted by whatever was in that apartment. The reason why I wanted to share this too is because those of us, you and me and others that are in apartments, we're kind of like on our own, right? When it comes to this, like we have nothing in terms of protection, like in terms of being able to just say, I'm out, I'm going to leave, and so on. If you break an apartment lease, obviously there's a huge fee associated with it, thousands of dollars in place, not to mention all the fees and costs of moving to somewhere. So you're stuck. So imagine something like this happening to you as well. Come home from work every single day, and now you have this happening where apparently there's shadows walking around, darting here and there, watching you. One of them apparently being right there within the actual closet and apparently taking the essence or presence of an old man, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to live there at least until the lease breaks. What a horrible situation when it comes to that crazy stuff. There was a little bit of set of updates from the user later on in the comments, but nothing really that stood out. But otherwise, again, just a very unsettling, just creepy story. No one knows to this day like what happened as far as the apartment and why it was haunted. My best guess is that somebody had died there. You never know, right? When you move into an apartment, what happened before. My guess is that it was probably an old person that was just mean and nasty. They ended up dying in that apartment. And then for whatever reason, they decided to just stay there. And when they did so, they decided to make living hell to anyone else that was afterward. Also, it was interesting that they mentioned Ghost Adventures, because those of you that know the history of Ghost Adventures know that the very first time, at least according to Zach, the reason why he started all his ghost hunts was because he in turn was haunted in an apartment as well. I believe it's been years since I heard the story, but I believe it was he was there in the bedroom and he would constantly see like the ghost of an old woman just cackling and just very creepy and demonic, just staring at him and so on. And so that's what got him interested in regards to doing these ghost hunts. It always made me wonder which apartment that was, which apartment complex, and where, because you could imagine that someone else is living there too. But that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments as well. Anybody there living in apartments now? Something that is haunted? Love to hear what your thoughts are on there too. Luckily, I have not encountered anything like that. Fingers crossed, obviously, that doesn't happen. But if someone else has, let me know. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.